recording this. So I will be recording this in case you guys want to share it with your colleagues. And normally we post it after a few days. We post it on our YouTube channel. So we actually have a pretty growing YouTube channel. We're posting a lot of content recently. A lot of our webinars are there. We also do some short videos that are there. So normally I'd say we post around 4 or 5 new videos a month. So it's usually recorded webinars, and we also do a lot of webinars on what's new in terms of our product. So like new versions or whatever, new functionalities that you guys can expect in our new products. So yeah, first question, why is NAV still relevant? So actually, Business Central has been out for a couple of years now, but we still keep on getting requests for NAV. And I'm sure you guys have this issue as well. You have some customers who are still on NAV, who have they have no aspirations of actually moving to Business Central, or maybe it's too much of a hassle given the fact that you built them so many customizations. Or if you're a customer, then your investment, obviously, you'd need to invest again for the new system. But we noticed that, more and more we're getting these questions that requests for orders for Navision and not just for Business Central. And last year we actually did a survey. I'm not sure if you guys participated in this survey, but we sent it out to all of our contacts, and we kind of made a report which we call the Business Central and Manufacturing Report for 2020. And we actually found out that 2 out of 3 of the customers that of the people who are not partners said that they actually are still on NAV, and they will be migrating. Majority of them will be migrating to Business Central within the next 3 years, and there's actually also a minority that's going to be migrating after 3 years, or actually have no plans of migrating to Business Central at all. So that means that there's still a big opportunity actually for Navision. And although we're growing our portfolio, we're growing our products on Business Central, we just wanted to remind the public that actually our products on NAV are still at this time, very, very relevant to your customers or to the market. So we also see some countries, especially I mentioned that I handle from the eastern part of Europe all the way up to New Zealand, and there are also a lot of countries that still don't have localizations and so on and so forth. So still a lot of NAV customers out there, and I'm pretty surprised actually that I still get some requests for NAV 2009 R2. So our products are actually available from NAV 2009 R2 all the way up to 2018. So yeah, so this is just a figure that we saw in our report, that it will be between the this year and next year that they'll be migrating to Business Central, but that's just 60%. So there's that 40% that actually might still need visual scheduling capabilities that we can actually cater to. I mentioned earlier that we did this survey last year, and actually next week on Thursday, we'll be having a special event for it. So it's called the State of Business Central and Manufacturing Roundtable Discussion. And we will be sharing our insights about, the results of that survey, and we'll also be discussing how those results actually impact, our business, or what will that look like maybe in the long run. And we actually also invited a couple of people from around the world, some of our partners, some very popular people in the community who will take part in this roundtable discussion. So yeah, if you guys have the time and you guys are interested in learning more about the industry that we're all in, you can register on our website, or I also created a LinkedIn event, so you can just find that on our LinkedIn page, and you can register for this event next week. So yeah, hopefully I look forward to seeing some of you there. And if you guys are interested also on the visual job scheduler for NAV, then I did a demo last Tuesday on that, and that demo is actually now already on YouTube. So maybe you also might have some opportunities who might need it. So yeah, so today we're gonna talk about the visual production scheduler, and um, if we actually look at scheduling, just scheduling, production scheduling, the whole point of this scheduling, production scheduling, it's all about achieving an equilibrium. It's all about achieving this kind of um, balance between actually your internal resources, the supply of your internal resources, and the demand for your internal resources. So in NAV language, that would be your machine centers and your work centers versus your production orders. So we want to always make sure that we have sufficient capacity in our work centers and machine centers to be able to actually um, work on production orders. So we don't want to have too many production orders. We don't want to have too few work centers or machine centers, but we want to achieve an equilibrium as much as possible. So that's the whole goal of production scheduling, and that's what we see is our goal is to help the customers really achieve this equilibrium by using um, visualization. So in general, if you would want to use our product, there are a few things that you would need to set up, and um, that's obviously there's like a minimum. And if you don't know already, our products are fully integrated with NAV. Um, we're actually taking a lot of the data, a lot of the information from the cards, the information that you actually already put on NAV, and we help you visualize that. But in general, for us to be able to help you visualize that, then you would need some input on NAV. So what we need is that you would set up your work centers and machine centers. That's the minimum. Obviously, when you set up your work centers and machine centers, you would need to define their capacity. So they have to have their calendar set up. If it's an 8-hour shift for 5 days or whatever, but that has to be set up for us to be able to use the visual production scheduler um, to its full potential. So that's the supply side of things. The supply side of things, again, is the work centers in the machine center. In terms of the demand side of things, that's coming always from our production orders. So what's important, obviously, is that you have set up your routings and you have set up your obviously your production orders. So it's important for us to see the due dates from your production orders, which are obviously also affected by the dates coming from your routing. And your routing obviously always answers the who is it assigned to, meaning which work center or machine center, and how long is that going to run on a specific work center or machine center. So that so yeah, in a nutshell, this is what we would expect for you guys as a minimum to be able to use our products. So now let's have a look at what NAV looks like. And for the guys out there who are already working on Business Central, this might bring you back to down memory lane. In general, I just wanted to show you how it is working with NAV and scheduling, and without using the visual production scheduler. What's the experience like? So normally you have your we can see here I'm on my machine center table. I can see my machine centers, which here are mostly a mix of people and robots. Well, robots, sorry, machines and people, not yet robots, but could be robots as well. And what NAV gives you is it gives you the ability to create these machine centers. It gives you the ability to set them up, to set up their calendars. But what NAV doesn't really give you a good visibility on is actually how these machine centers are um, used, how many of my production orders are allocated to them. So obviously we can look at that on the loads. We can see how many minutes are actually allocated already to a specific routing or to a specific production order. We see how many is still available from that 480 capacity of theirs per day. So we can see this easily for one resource, for one machine center. But the thing is, we it's hard for us to compare now how 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 is Brian Walton's capacity compared to the other machine centers here, to the other people in his department or whatever. So then you would always need to, go one by one, kind of, look at it this way. So it's all tables. My point is that it's all tables. It's easy. You can obviously you can already do a lot with tables, but it's not the best experience. So you always need to kind of dive deep. You kind of have to make these uh, reading between the lines in your mind without really seeing something, because all I'm seeing here are just tables at the end of the day. And does that really, I mean, obviously it does help you if you're coming from nothing, but the question is that the best actually experience that you can get? um, so if we go to the other side of things, so this is what we're looking at, is the supply side of things, the machine centers. But if we look at your uh, production orders, actually, so if I want to look at my production orders, the thing about Business Central is they always categorize your production orders. So I need to see my production orders. So I have my planned production orders, I have my firm planned production orders, and somewhere down the line I'll have my released production orders. But they're always kind of separate from each other. And my production orders would look like this. So these are my planned production orders. Obviously, it tells me a lot of things already. So if I double click that, obviously I can see, the due date, when I'm gonna start building this painted bicycle, when that's gonna finish. I can look at my components. I can see my BOM. I can see the quantity, but and also I can obviously see the routing, which to us is the most important table here. Is we can see the routing, so we know who is assigned to what a specific task and how long that task is gonna take, when it starts, when it ends, and obviously the start and end date here would affect the due date of your painted bicycle. So in general, this is the demand side of things. It's easy. I can obviously see um, who's doing what, but again, it's hard for me to compare this with my other production orders. So it's hard for me to actually know or have a good feeling or have an impression of how much actually packing table number one is doing, unless I switch back to my machine center table. So it's a lot of switching between tables, looking at specific cards, and maybe I have to check, the allocated capacity, which days are affected by this one operation that needs to be done by this specific machine center. But the question is always, how now do we compare that allocation, but from this machine center to the other machine centers that could be affected as well, right? So I mean, business nav and Business Central, they all give you the opportunity to fill up these tables, but at the end of the day, again, my question is, how is that the best the best experience, no, for the user? So that's kind of where we saw what was lacking. So now I'm just gonna switch back to my presentation, um, and that's kind of how we. I see a question. Do you have any report to show the work in progress of production output? Yes, we do. I can show you the. So someone's asking about the work in progress. So the postings, I'm assuming, is your question, and I will show you later how we're able to track the postings on your operations. So but I'll go to that a bit later. So now let's have a look at. Let me. So now let's go back to the presentation. In general, your ERP gives you a lot of data. It's really a very powerful tool, but it's still lacking a lot of stuff. So there's this void that we that the reason why we're here is to kind of fill in this void, because in general we see that the ERP, your ERP, standard nav, standard Business Central, they don't really give you a good overall view of your schedule, it's hard for you to understand, what your schedule actually looks like really a summary or a good overview. So they don't really do a good job of that. And at the same time, it's also, if you can't really visualize it, then it becomes always harder for you to understand which among your production orders are on the risk of actually running late. At the same time, it doesn't also, I mean, it does give you that information, but you have to look for it, is my point. But another question is, how is my capacity in terms of my machine centers and work centers? Who's over capacity? Who's doing what when? I mean, instead of digging through tables, like yeah, that's where we really come in to help you guys visualize that. So the VPS, our product has been around since I think 2013. Basically, what I'm saying is we have a lot of experience in this, and in general, our product is seamlessly integrated into NAV. It gives you the transparency that kind of NAV is missing. So it's easier for you to spot, bottlenecks in your operations. It's easy for you to, um, at one glance, see really the schedule of your work centers and machine centers. And the last thing that we saw is that, when you work with tables, changing data is not that easy because you have to go into, each field and really change the data there. But what we give you is this ability to really interact quickly with that data by just dragging and dropping it. So I think it's in terms of like value added, this is we believe that we really add a lot of value by giving you this function, because you're able to react faster to changes. You're able to be more flexible also in your planning, in your day-to-day operations, and at the end of the day, your planner is saving a lot of time as well. So now let's take a look at what the VPS looks like. So we were looking at standard nav. So now let's look at what the VPS looks like. So I can just simply search for the visual production scheduler, and I have my visual production scheduler here. And I'll just give you a quick run through of how the whole visual production scheduler works. So earlier you saw I had to search for my production orders based on its status, but now we give you all of your production orders kind of in one view. It's still categorized by status, but now the thing is I can visualize them side by side, right? Each um, each category of the job of the production order status I can see. So I have my planned production orders here. I have my firm planned and my released production orders. Basically, I have a list of all my production orders, and if they have several lines under them. So if you work with a sub-assembly or just a production order with several lines, production order lines underneath them, then they show up as like another row here. So you can see I have a production order here that's a bit more complicated than a regular production order. So I have here my production order. I have here my due date. I can, with my mouse wheel, I can zoom in and zoom out to as granular as I need to see that data. And also I can drag and drop that my schedule to kind of scroll from left to right in my schedule. So yeah, so if I would now open up my schedule, well, my production order, then I see my routing. So I can see the operations under that schedule, and I see, oh yeah, I have 7 different operations that are part of my routing. And actually, this production order is doing well because it finishes way before the due date here. And I can also see which work center or which machine center each operation is assigned to. And I also see which one is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one by this arrow here. And also, obviously, if you numbered it properly, then you also see this is the 10, the 20, the 30, which operation it is you are looking at. And if I put my mouse over anything here, then I get more information about that operation. So I know here that this is the operation number 10. I know that it's been allocated to the packing table number 1. I can see the start, the end date, the production order number, also the item, and the progress percentage. So later on, I'll go to this progress percentage because someone specifically also asked for it. And then one thing that you might ask is, what is this gray area here and this white area here? Basically, the white area is my my working time. Well, my schedule for the day, my calendar, and the gray area here is my non-working time. And I actually have the option here to hide that. So it's hiding like the shared non-working period, but for this example, let's just keep it open. So now I can see actually, oh, this is a long gray area here because this is actually a Saturday and a Sunday, and these other gray areas here are after office hours, basically. So now let's look at what happens if I start moving my production orders around. So this is what we call the production order view. This is just more or less to manage your due dates for your production orders. So the movement here is always just left to right, meaning you can only change the dates of your operations here. So as I drag and drop, you can actually already see the start and end date moving on this like text box on top. And if I drop it, I see that everything else kind of moved as well to the right. And I also see that there's a red box or a red outline on my on the box of my operation. And this red outline just tells me that actually you've made some changes on the VPS, but these changes have not been saved back to Business Central yet. So I have the option always to save or to reload. So I can undo that, or I can save that if that's the change that I want to make. So again, if we move this more to the right, then you'll see everything still move. And if I move it to the left, then everything also moves to the left. But these movements that I'm doing are something that you can actually set up for yourself and customize. So these are just here auto schedule. I can auto schedule my predecessors, successors, or whatever. So you always have that option. And now I'm happy with those changes, and I can click save. What happens is the red outline disappears, and actually now that data is saved back to your nav card. So let's look again at this production order. If I want to go inside the production order and look at the card on standard nav, all I have to do is double click. So now let's see the routing again for this, and let's see the first operation starts on the 30th of January and ends on the 31st. So let's use that as a guide. And now let's move this from the 30th to the 1st of February. So I can move it again here, and I can click here save. And now it's saved. If I now double click that and actually go back into nav, then I actually see that the start and end date of the first operation changed from from January 30th to February 1st. And that would obviously affect the other operations on this routing. So that's what you saw here. If, for example, let's take a look at this kind of complicated production order we have here. So we have this production order 10-10-03, which is a kind of complicated product. I guess this is, what kind of product are we creating? We're creating a painted bike, and this painted bike needs a front wheel that's specific, a back wheel that's specific, and a rim. And all of these are kind of, you can see that they are basically a sub-assembly, and that would mean that creating my painted bicycle would really require me first to have these three parts. They might not be connected to each other, but they're in the end connected to my painted bicycle. That's why if I make any changes actually to these dependent uh, production order lines, then that would also actually affect the schedule of my painted bike in the end. So now let's try to uh, move something. So if I try to move that, then you actually see that um, everything else would move to the right, because this is connected to my painted bicycle. This what is this? This front wheel is connected to my painted bicycle by that line. You see there's this like dotted line connecting it there. And then now, actually, because I moved something, then you actually see that the last operation of this front wheel is actually late. And we help you see that by this visualization of this red shade here. So that's how it kind of works if you miss your due date. So let's say I don't want to see that, I don't want to make that change because it actually would affect my schedule and my delivery date wouldn't be met. So I can just click here, reload, and say I want to reload and not save that data, and then it goes back to where it was earlier. One thing that you might also be asking is what's this moving thing on the bottom? So you see on the bottom actually is the capacity of my machine center. So you can see that the names are changing and the capacity is changing because I'm hovering my mouse over different different machine centers or work centers, which are actually here on the left side. And as I do that, then the bottom part changes, and it's telling me where a specific machine center or work center has or does not have any allocated operations. So that's how we're keeping track of that. Now let's go to an interesting case. Someone asked earlier about if you have some postings, work in progress, if you're already producing output on your production journal, how do we help you keep track of that? Then we actually have here a specific button for it. It's called Show Progress. And if I click the Show Progress, then I can actually have this on my released production orders. I have this extra bar underneath. And this extra bar underneath is telling me whether or not an operation has been finished. So I can put my mouse over this operation, and I can see on my last line, it tells me that progress percentage is 100%. So actually, this whole released production order, I guess, everything here is 100% finished, which means that it's actually a released production order that's been already finished work. Well, the output has been produced already. So that's what we can see here. And I actually made a very simple example for you guys here. So I have this production order that I created, very simple routing. I just wanted to show you what happens if I have a production order, especially if it's assigned to the work center level. And maybe I can show you also how it looks like if I fill it up with postings. So now I have this this routing with four operations. And if I click here, then you can see the product I'm building is, I just call it the special webinar bike. And right now it's still assigned to a work center, but later on when I shift to the next view, I'll put it on a machine center, and then we can see what happens if I post anything. So let's now go to the capacities view. So again, this is the production order view where we manage the production orders only. So where we change the due dates, not the due dates, but the timings of my operations. And that would obviously affect the due date as well. So now let's go to what we call the capacity view. So the capacity view, looks a lot different. So the first thing that you'll see here is that I don't have my production orders on the left side anymore. Instead, I have my machine centers, my work centers, um, and again on the bottom you have your what we call capacity curve, which is telling me where I have capacity or where I don't have capacity. So let's look first for an example here that I can work with. I showed you earlier I had this a production order that I recently created, the special webinar bike. And actually I created a filter so that we can focus on that production order specifically. So on our VPS, you can create actually filters, and these filters let you really filter based on work center, machine center, or on the production order. So there's like tons of information here that you can filter through, but let's not go into that. Let's go now into my webinar bike, my special bicycle. So now I can activate that filter. Okay. And now I have my webinar bike that I made, and I can see that actually they are assigned to the work center level. So I'm using right now my work center as a sort of placeholder, and this is kind of how we tell our customers to use our product, is that you can the who when you create a production order, the who is not that important when you have the VPS, because that's the whole point of it, is that um, you should manage the who when you put it on your schedule, and you can easily drag and drop. So it's easier for you to do it here because you have the visibility of all your other resources, and it's easier for you to compare who has and do not have enough capacity. So now let's move this here. So like the production order view, I can also move my production order from left to right. Um, but if I hover my mouse over a production order, I actually see on the right side, there's the due date line. So even if I move my production order from left to right, I I still have that visibility over when it's actually due. So I can move it left to right, and same mechanics. It will still move based on the settings that you set up. So I'm telling him um, to actually auto schedule my successors. So I can move that back here, and everything else also moves. Because I didn't want to move it there because it wasn't gonna reach the due date. So again, if I move that here, then I can see that yeah, the due date is here, and if that goes over the line, then I get this red kind of notification. So I did that because I wanted to show you also this feature. I can right click on my operation and say um, schedule next operation. So just to pull it back right after this operation. So instead of just moving it left to right, what we can do is also move it from resource to resource. So I can move it from my machine center to the work center, or work center to machine center. Um, I can, I'm doing this, I'm just moving it. And actually you see that I'm trying to manage the bottom part. So if you're looking at the bottom part, Mike Siemens, I'm actually trying to see where I can schedule this where he's not doing anything. So I can actually see that there are some spikes in his capacity. And obviously, he does not have enough capacity to do some of this because I'm getting some spikes. So because I activated the filter, I actually don't know what Mike Siemens is doing on that day. So I can deactivate that filter. And this is what I was working on. And actually, I'm having a spike there because I have this production order that I'm also working on. So I can move that maybe here, but that's no good because actually I still have a spike on mic because of this operation. I can move that here, and then now there's no issue with mic anymore. Um, Again, I made some changes, and that red outline comes back, and I can just save that. And now actually what I wanted to show you is um, how we can post some output and how that would look on our scheduler. So now let's try to post some output for this. So let's go to the production journal. For my special webinar bike, let's say Mike actually already did 10, um, 10 bikes, but the rest of the other operations have not really started yet. So I can just post this. Whenever you kind of change stuff on business on nav, you would always need to reload your data. So now I reload my data, and if we go to Mike Siemens and we look at his this first operation for my special webinar bike, I can actually see that now there's a grade grayed out bar underneath him, and that's telling me that Mike Siemens actually already started the operation, and it's also telling me that the progress percentage is 33.3%. So he started something because he did 10 out of 30 bicycles. That's part of that production order. So that's what it looks like when you, like, a work in progress looks like, and that's how we help you visualize it. And if we go back to the production order view, I can go here. This is the production order I was working on, and I can also see it here. So it's also showing up here, this grayed out area, and yeah, basically that's how it works. If you don't want that, if that's not so important to you, then you can always hide the progress bar. So you have the option to hide it and to show it. Another view that we have, so again, the capacity view, that's more to manage your capacities, to actually really understand who's doing what when. These labels that you see here, these are the production order numbers. These can be customized, so you can put whatever you want there, your customer name, or whatever information that's on standard nav that we can kind of pull out. So again, you can just kind of move them around uh, from one machine center to another, and then pay attention to the capacity curve underneath. So I can see here, Linda Mitchell, she's doing too much on this day because she's doing two operations. So I might need to move something here. Again, this is a infinite capacity scheduler, so you can obviously overload a machine center without any problem. So one thing that's a good way to kind of see all of this is my loads. My loads view. So my loads view shows me um, all of my capacity curves for all my machine centers and work centers. And if I look at this, it's easy for me to see actually where I have some problems. So I can immediately see, yeah, Linda has some problems on the 31st of January. Then I can switch back to my capacity view, look for the 31st of January, and actually, yeah, she's, well, obviously she's gonna have problems because she's doing too much, right? Then I can kind of try to find the best balance. So we go back to that discussion we had about finding balance, because that's actually what you're doing here. You're trying to balance out Linda Mitchell's capacity. You're trying to make sure that she has enough capacity to meet to work on these operations without you needing that without that operation missing the due date. So that's the whole point of this. So how you would work with it normally is you would be switching between the different views. So one last thing I wanted to discuss with you is also how our visual production scheduler makes use of the calendar or your loads, your capacity of your machine center. So this is again the white and the gray area behind the operation. So if I double click on Mike Siemens, actually what we're taking the information you have from your loads, from your calendar. If you change anything, obviously, then that would also affect his the capacity curve underneath him. That's why on certain days he has maybe capacity, on certain days he doesn't. Like here, if I look at Mike Siemens on Saturday and Sunday, that box doesn't appear anymore because he's not working on Saturday and Sunday. And it's the same thing on this Thursday. So as you can see, everyone else is working, but I actually changed Mike's calendar so that he doesn't have capacity on this day. So you see it being visualized by this gray area, and you see it also below on my capacity curve, that the capacity curve for Thursday is missing. So if we now go to Mike Siemens, and maybe we can also use this on the planning part of the machine center, we can use this absences. And actually, he is not available on that day because he has an appointment with his doctor. So the whole day he's out, and I just use this capacity absence table. And if you fill it up, that would also be visualized on our scheduler, like here on Mike Siemens. So yeah, that's a quick uh like a quick demonstration of how our product works. Let me just check if you guys posted any questions. So I see a question from Christoph. Is it possible to split the job between Mike and Brian? So so if you want to split a job between two people, you cannot do it on our scheduler. You would have to do it on standard nav. So you would have to go maybe check your routing again and see how you can do that. Or you could also just if you have this being done by the whole, for example, Mike and Brian are the only ones part of a work center, then you can just assign it to the work center and just use it from there. That's how I see. uh that's one solution that I see. But yeah, you could also split the operations between them, but you can't do it in our um scheduler. So yeah, I guess one last thing that I forgot to mention actually is that this is a feature that we have on nav but we don't have on Business Central for our VPS. Is that if I right click a uh, operation, I get this option to actually show the item availability by BOM level. So I get actually a visualization of the BOM for that item, and I can see what it takes to actually make a eh? Oh, I don't have a BOM for this item because I just built it. But let's look at another um BOM. So here, this painted bicycle, if I expand all, then I actually can see how this painted bicycle is created and how many quantity of each component I have in my warehouse or whatever. So I can see what I need and where I will have problems, and I can actually also play around with how much quantity I would need and when that demand date is, and that would actually also change um the information here that's able to make top item. So yeah, so right now I can make 19, I guess. So yeah, this is a functionality again that's only available on the VPS on nav. So let me head back to the scheduler. So yeah, can we see the resource requirements based on the uh, can we see the resource requirements based on resource load? I'm not quite sure I understand your question. I guess the best way to see, okay, thanks, split the routing to 15 over 15. Yeah. And then, yeah, um, in terms of like the resource load and the resource requirement, the best way the best way we help you visualize that is actually already on the capacity curve below. So that's where you would see the load, how much capacity you have. Is that the white area, this whole box, that's the capacity you have, and the gray area is the used capacity. And if you have, like, for example, here I have um I have this red notification underneath that's telling me that I have too much allocated load on it, but he does not have enough capacity. Therefore, maybe I should move it like this. And if I moved it like that, actually it would work because I didn't get any notification that by moving it here, this would be late. So I can just save this data. Yeah. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I have a few more slides prepared here. But if you have more questions, I can go back to it later when I go back to the VPS. So let's talk about more from the customer's perspective. If, for example, they would um, purchase the VPS for NAV, what does that mean for them moving forward? So if your customer, or if you're the customer, then you want to go from NAV, VPS NAV, and maybe you're happy with the product, what happens to you later on when you actually migrate to Business Central? So actually, the VPS, our VPS is also available on Business Central, and it's available on Prem and on cloud up to the latest version, which is I think 17.4. We're also on App Source, so that's no issue. Whatever version of Business Central you would go to, we'd probably be able to support you as well. Uh, Two options for people who are considering the VPS on NAV, or who are or who have the VPS on NAV. Once you move to Business Central, you have the option of going for the VPS again. But if you thought that your experience with the VPS on NAV lacked some kind of how do you say, like some advanced functionalities, some um, automatic functionalities, then you also have the option of migrating to the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, which is a product that we built specifically on Business Central, and it does not exist for NAV. So the pricing for this is, if you are a NAV customer for the VPS, if you have a valid support and maintenance agreement, then you can simply switch to the VPS from NAV to the VPS on BC. So you don't need to pay any difference in the license price. Actually, the license price is a bit different, but you would only need to pay the difference in the support and maintenance. So the support and maintenance from for NAV is 16%, while on Business Central it's 20%, and it's 20% because we actually work a lot to update those products quite frequently, every few months. What is the minimum version for NAV, VPS NAV? So the minimum version of NAV for the VPS is 2009 R2. So it has to be the role tailored client. And actually, we still have some uh, customers on NAV 2009 R2, and we have some inquiries as well, like some recent inquiries of customers who are interested in getting it for NAV 2009 R2. If you are going for um, the more advanced version, and you're a customer of the VPS for NAV, then you would only need to pay the difference in the license cost. So just to give you an idea, the advanced production scheduler, because it is advanced and because it is has more awesome capabilities, and we put a lot more time and effort in building it, the price is higher. It's definitely higher. But if you are already a customer of the VPS for NAV, then you don't need to pay the full price, and we can subtract um, the license price that you purchase when you purchase the VPS NAV to the license price of the VAPS for Business Central. So that's a little bit about the migration path if you are to buy the VPS for NAV right now. Um, One more thing we start to offer quick start packages. So these are packages that we offer to our partners and customers, especially for partners who are quite new to the industry or quite new with our products. They don't have a lot of experience working with us, or maybe they just lack the manpower, or they maybe have also customers with very specific requirements. Then we can help out with setting up the product for your customer. So we give 8 hours of training and consulting. We give remote installation support, and we also have a 30-day proof of concept. Um, so yeah, this is quite attractive for a lot of partners who have issues with manpower or with the experience with NAV or Business Central or with our products in general. So if you're interested in that, just contact me and I can explain to you in more detail how this process works and what you would expect from this package. If you have very specific questions for NAV, I would actually want to point you towards our help page. So we have like an FAQ page on our website. If you go to help.netronic.com, then you get here a list of FAQs and a lot of actually good content that could also help you start your journey with us on the VPS. So, any questions, guys? It's a bit early, but I think I'm pretty much through with my presentation. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. If not, I'm always open to chat. You can always write me an email at lawin.ileto@netronic.com, or again, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And again, I would want to thank you guys for your attention and for your time this evening, well, the morning in the US. And again, I would want to invite you guys to our event next Thursday, which is about the results of the Business Central and Manufacturing survey that we did last year. So that might be very interesting for you guys, since if you guys attended this webinar and you guys are interested in manufacturing, then that will be also very interesting for you guys. Yeah. So if there are no more questions, again, thank you. And just reach out to me if you have thought of a question. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, guys. Bye.